Hello listeners, my name is Herbert Huppert, proud to have been brought up in Sydney and learnt to surf and admire the oceans at Bondi. Since those early days, I have learnt how to analyse fluid motions quantitatively and, in particular, the complicated and wide-ranging flows in the world's oceans. I've written many scientific papers in this area and want to tell you about one particular aspect. Tsunamis may be relatively infrequent occurrences in many of the world's oceans and large bodies of water like the Mediterranean, but they can do enormous damage. For example, the Boxing Day tsunami in 2004 killed almost 250,000 people and caused damage estimated at $15 billion. Japan has often been inundated by tsunamis. The most recent one, in March 2011, is estimated to have cost $250 billion. Tsunamis propagate across the oceans with heights of up to 20 meters, wavelengths of up to 100 kilometers, and speeds up to 800 kilometers an hour, equivalent to that of a jet aircraft. Of course, most tsunamis do not reach these maxima, but they still have impressive values for them. As they come onto shore, because their energy is squeezed into a smaller depth, their height can increase dramatically and devastate regions and kill people over kilometers from the shoreline. With the very bright undergraduate summer student at Cambridge, Joseph Weber, I have an idea how to significantly decrease the amplitude and hence propagated energy in these waves before they hit the shoreline. The basic concept is to line the bottom of the ocean with a porous mat, which absorbs energy from the overlying surface wave and renders it harmless. The rate of dampening of such waves will depend mainly on the porosity of the mat used and the relative thickness of the porous bed to the total depth of water, though the wave frequency and viscosity of water, which can't be changed, also play a role. Once a decision is made about the suitable height of the porous medium, the porosity that maximizes the damping factor can be evaluated. What height is best suited to any situation may depend on what size ships are expected and allowed to travel above the porous layer. Clearly, the higher the porous layer, the shorter the decay distance will be. This concept is supported by an aspect of the damage caused by the Boxing Day tsunami on Sri Lanka. The destruction and loss of life was very large along some coastal areas and relatively minor along others. This was not at all understood at first until it was realized that some thieves were cutting away areas of coral, leaving the neighboring shoreline vulnerable while other areas were protected by the porous coral, which acted as a dampener on the tsunami, just as my artificial porous mat will. Only certain areas of coral were subject to this thieving, apparently, because the thieves knew that they were safe committing their crimes there. Indeed, underwater coral layers play a significant role in dampening the overlying ocean surface waves in a number of areas around the world, including the Great Barrier Reef and in Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. In addition to defending against tsunamis, underwater porous layers could diminish shoreline erosion, like on the East Anglian coastline near where I currently live, and against waves that undercut bluffs, which can often initiate landslides, with a prime example being at Lake Erie, Ohio. What would the cost be of such defending porous layers? Impossible to say at this time, but it will be less than you might first imagine because a perfect uniform mat is not needed. Even if a bit is missing or of inferior quality, the overall damping will be very similar. This is in sharp contrast to a defending breakwater, which broken in one part becomes virtually useless. Will a company specialize in the area of manufacture needed and make relatively cheap layers? Whatever the cost, surely it will be rather less than $15 billion and the value of the lives of 250,000 people.
And Herbert Huppert assures me that the flexible distribution of that protective buffer allows them to spare any precious marine life along a coastline. He's Professor of Maths at Cambridge and Fellow of King's College.